Hi, Katie.
Hi, Andy.
You'd think we'd be better at this by now. Welcome, listener, to Two Girls Who Scare Easily. We are a podcast about the spooky and interesting side of Colorado. Today Katie is going to regale us. So, what are we talking about today?
Today is sort of a part 2.5 / part 3 / it's also a standalone, so you don't really have to listen to the other two parts, where we are going to be talking about some of the haunted history of the Auraria campus.
I'm so
And
excited.
if folks want to see the very long and detailed lead up to this episode, you can listen to parts 1 and 2 about the history of the Auraria campus, but this one is meant to be more of a fun palate cleanser. You also don't have to listen to either of those, and this will still make sense. It's totally cool. So on that note, we're just going to dive into it because both of our brain spaces are hanging on by a thread today. So we're just going to jump right in. For folks who, again, have not listened to part 1 or part 2, and they're thinking, Auraria, what are you talking about? It is in reference to the tri-institutional college campus that exists in downtown Denver. And it is home to University of Colorado, Denver, Metropolitan State University of Denver, and Community College of Denver. And the campus was built on top of a neighborhood, Auraria. And based on that alone, there is some weird energy on the campus. It's really cool, and it's a kind of a creative idea, but there's a lot of old buildings that were there when the neighborhood was standing, and you just feel like you walked into the middle of something. So
plus then you have disaster energy.
Massive disaster energy because lots of floods.
Side note, something weird.
What?
Yesterday or today, I got a notification from the Highlands Ranch Historical Society that they were talking about the Great Flood of 1965.
Hot dog. There's just so many.
Yep.
There's
so many synchronicities.
I know.
It's weird.
Colorado, what a place. So, yeah, natural disaster because they bulldozed neighborhoods and businesses and private homes and streets and everything to throw up this campus kind of on top of all of it. And that sort of lingers.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you just limit haunting to like the metaphysical, like philosophical idea of being haunted by your past or a legacy or a history, the campus for sure has that. I mean, it is a living, breathing testament to the kind of ideas of like growth versus preservation and how communities and cities expand and how resources that are necessary get placed, and then which parts of the community suffer because of it or are left out of the conversation because of it. So that alone, you're like, okay, yeah, the campus is haunted. But that's not the only way that the campus is haunted. Lots of people both feel and see and have had their own experiences with ghosties, like full-fledged ghosties, many of whom were there way before it was a campus, and some may be there because it's a campus. And so I highlighted a few of those. There are whole other episodes that we could dedicate to just people getting murdered on the campus. Unfortunately, that happened like 3 times that we know of for sure. That is not who we're focusing on today because, to my knowledge, they are not the people involved in the hauntings.
Mm.
So we'll save that for another time. But this is just like a Pandora's box of stories that keep giving.
I
So
love it.
many of the testimonies that I found were interviews actually done by the school paper
Okay.
and a paranormal investigation group that was started by a former student. And so there's a lot that is hearsay that's just students talking
Yeah.
about specific examples, but it's very interesting. And I definitely think if people have more recent paranormal or ghost sightings from Auraria, please let us know because
Please.
love that. And if someone is ever doing another investigation, your girl wants in. We
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 volunteer as
women,
tribute.
we volunteer. Would absolutely love it. So a lot of the testimonies are residual hauntings. It doesn't appear like the ghosts don't interact with you.
Mm-hmm.
They're just happening whether you're there or not,
Right.
and relatively unaware of anyone's presence. Maybe some small interactions, but like nothing. I never saw a single report of anything like super malicious
Mm.
or harmful towards students or anything like that. And
That's always so fascinating.
I know.
Like,
And as a former Metro student, I went there for my undergraduate. Whenever they talk about the buildings, I'm like, oh, I loved going there. Like,
did,
yeah,
did you
there's
ever
certain,
did you ever have any experiences?
no, but I really wanted to. There were times that I was walking around in old buildings or I had to go behind somewhere and like get random storage for my job that I was definitely like, oh, there's 150% ghosts here. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm about that.
Right?
Please. There are sections of campus that feel really fractured
Hmm.
from the rest of it because they're sort of hidden and it's a big place. And there are sections of it that just aren't really that populated by students
Okay.
very much. And so when you do go to the more like remote areas of especially communal buildings, it feels disjointed. It feels like
Mm.
a liminal space.
I feel like a lot of college campuses kind of have that vibe. If
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know, it's kind of that like abandoned mall vibe, right? Like it's a
Yes.
place that should have people and doesn't, and it makes it weird.
Yeah. And it does it right now. And it probably will again and it will feel a lot more normal. Yeah. It's very cool. So one of the first places that they investigated and heard a lot of unexplained phenomena around is the Cherry Creek building on campus. It is one of the older it's one of the first built. So it's like this big mid-century modern like brick building. You don't get cell service for shit when you're in there. Just disclaimer, it's very annoying. So a lot of students described hearing the sound of like city streets
Huh.
inside the hallway and the classrooms, like bicycle bells or even car horns. And there are no cars. Like, you can't drive through campus. All of the parking lots are annoyingly far away.
Mhm.
And so there's really no way for you to actually hear traffic, especially not when you're inside that building. Like, the walls still have asbestos insulation.
Mm.
They're not fucking going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so students would say it's just weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, that you'll be walking down a hallway or in a classroom, by yourself, and it will sound like a car horn is going off
Huh.
right outside.
Yeah, that's
So that's kind
crazy.
of fun. That's another, it appears to be just happening completely unaware
Yeah.
of it. Like, it doesn't care that there's students there. It doesn't
Mhm.
know. So that is just kind of that was just like a fun one-off. One of the actual homes that is, again, purported to be haunted is Casa Mayan, which we talk about in some of the older episodes, but it is in the Ninth Avenue Historic District. And it has been there. It wasn't moved. It was just preserved.
Okay.
Because that's the street that it was on when it was a town. And some fun facts about Casa Mayan, for those who don't know, it is the oldest surviving clapboard house in Denver. Clapboard meaning the material and the style of construction, the way that it was built together.
Mhm.
It was built in 1872 by a doctor. His name was Dr. William Smedley.
Fancy.
And it has and had at the time a very distinct white, like, walls with a green frame on the house that has like swirl pattern, and everybody recognized it. So Smedley became the Denver City's first practicing dentist, because
Ah.
he moved here in about 1870, and then he built this home in 1872. And at that point, Auraria, the city, had been absorbed into Denver proper. And so this neighborhood would have been known as West Denver at the time. But Auraria and West Denver, same thing.
Mhm.
So he moved in and practicing dentist, first one in the 1870s. Like, was dentistry just yanking?
Probably.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Just wrapping your head in a comical white bandage when you have a toothache.
What was that supposed to do?
I don't know.
Was that ever like a real thing?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know.
If someone does, let me know. I know that's like a cartoonish
Uh-huh.
analogy for having dental pain, is that a bandage would be wrapped around your head. And I would get it for like jaw surgery, or need you to keep
Yeah.
your mouth closed. But I always thought that was a thing that, frankly, you did for dead bodies, because after rigor mortis is over and the tissue starts to break down, your jaw starts to unhinge, because it's
Mhm.
not bone and bone connected. It's two bones connected by muscle.
Mhm.
I don't know. Anyways, so he was a dentist. Also, he became the first president of the Denver Dental Association, the first
Ooh.
president of the Colorado Dental Association, and he served 17 years as the superintendent of the North Side School District.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so he lived in the Casa Mayan / Smedley house. I call it Casa Mayan. I think that's how most people, especially on campus, will refer to it, because that is a very large part of its history, but it also had this history before.
Okay.
And I've seen on the historical plaques, they basically have two. And they talk
Mhm.
about architecturally why the house is important, and the first owner, which is this guy, and then its later history. Because he was in that house until he died
Oh wow.
in 1926.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's a
quite
solid
some
chunk of
time.
change.
Yeah, a solid chunk of time. And then in 1934, Ramon and Carolina Gonzalez bought the Smedley house. They were immigrants from Chihuahua, Mexico, and then they moved from Mexico to Texas. And then after living briefly in Texas for just a few years, it sounds like, then they moved to Denver. And lived in Denver moved to Denver in 1918. And they actually fled the Mexican Revolution
Oh.
in the 1910s. And so then they ended in Texas, and then they moved to Denver. And that's when, so they'd been in the area already about 10 years. And
Mhm.
that was when they bought the formerly known as Smedley House. But they'd been living in the neighborhood previously. I couldn't see that they'd owned any other houses. They might have just been renting and
Mhm.
like saving up to buy property or something like that. But they were already very well known in the Auraria / West Denver neighborhood. And so 1934, they buy the house, they move in, they continue to live there, but they also operate part of it as a restaurant.
Okay.
Like more of like a cafe
Mm.
type vibe. You know, like the good kind of shit. Small home cooked meals,
Mhm.
radio playing, people are hanging out on the stoop. They can come up and get some to go food. The definition of like a mom and pop, not hole in the wall, but like undiscovered beautiful gem.
Mhm.
And they started the restaurant because they had already been known as a very generous family. Like they were
Mhm.
always making huge meals for their neighbors and bringing food over. Like the kind of people that if they heard that you or your mom was sick or something like that, they are going to bring you a
Mhm.
dish, anything. And so then they figured, well, let's just turn it into an official business. We're already feeding the
Yeah.
entire neighborhood anyways. So they opened Casa Mayan in 1946 officially. And it was one of the first Latina owned Mexican American restaurants in Denver.
Nice.
And it was on the first floor. And then the
Okay.
family lived on the second story.
Gotcha.
So they would serve lunch and dinner and beer and wine. It was a family of 9. They had
Oh,
7
wow.
children. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. And the restaurant, especially in Auraria, West Denver neighborhood, became very popular. Like, this was the spot. So I
Mhm.
don't say hole in the wall in like people don't know where it is. I mean that it is, if you're doing the right thing and you're traveling and you ask the people who live in a neighborhood, like, where do you go for good food? This is the place that they recommended.
Mhm. It's like that local hang.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good shit. And because it was so popular and it had such good food, it also then became a huge cultural hub for artists, poets, musicians, like entertainers who were coming through, particularly for like Latina, Mexican American, Chicano movement. Because Auraria, West Denver, which we talked about in our earlier episodes, in the 1920s and the 1930s became a real cultural hub for that community because they had been pushed out of many other neighborhoods in Denver due to Jim Crow era segregation and redlining and various other like racial tension.
Mhm.
And so everyone moved to this neighborhood. And then it became this like pulse for the community,
Yeah.
which was really cool. There was always people who went to the restaurant when it was open, talked about how there were like impromptu concerts there almost every night because they got such a local pull of artists and musicians and performers that they would all just get together and have jam sessions and perform for the rest of the patrons.
That's so cool.
That's so cool. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
They also were not, they were known for just being like a beautifully welcoming couple. Like the
Aw.
Gonzalez couple and the rest of their family.
Mhm.
They welcomed everybody from all cultural backgrounds. And one of the descendants, her name's Marta Gonzalez de Alcaro. Did I pronounce her name just right? Yes. She recalled, we had an Irish family across the street, a German family, an English family, and none of us ever thought of being different. We were all in the same boat,
Oh,
which is just super rad.
that's so good.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was the thing about Auraria. It was always a sort of working class, everyone's doing blue collar jobs, everyone is trying to make ends meet. That's how it was started. That's how it continued to be. And so, because of that, and because property values were a little bit lower than they were in Denver City,
Hmm.
um, they had predominantly immigrant communities from all sorts of nations
Yeah.
and cultural backgrounds, and everyone would end up in Auraria. I'm of the opinion that that makes places much better and very fun. So it also, especially in the 40s and 50s and 60s, from the minute the restaurant opened in 1946 and became incredibly popular, it was popular until it closed.
Hmm.
Like, there was never a lull. It was gangbusters.
Did it
And it,
close when they raised the neighborhood?
yes, that was the reason that it had to ultimately shut its doors.
Hmm.
It did sort of take on a different, like, purpose in the neighborhood
Okay.
towards the end, which I will explain. But when it was still operating, like, in its prime as a functioning restaurant with the name Casa Mayan, it didn't just feed all of the locals and the people who knew how to get real good food and have a really good time. It also had famous visitors, some of
Ooh.
which were Joan Baez,
Mm.
the musician, Judy Collins, Marian Anderson, Jose Feliciano, Andre Segovia, and President Harry Truman.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, like, Joan Baez, especially in the 50s and 60s, that's like, she's like beatnik.
Yeah.
Like, these are cool people. I don't know about President Harry Truman personally. I never met the guy. He was dead way before I was born.
Hmm.
And so the restaurant was open until the early 1970s, when it did end up closing its doors because the whole neighborhood was closing its doors because the whole neighborhood got razed to the ground. At the very end, when there was the biggest, loudest push to save to save West Denver, to save Auraria,
Hmm.
it Casa Mayan was the place where a lot of those neighborhood communal efforts to save it, like, happened. Like, it was the meeting house
Yeah. I mean, that makes
for the
sense.
community. Yeah, because it
Yeah.
already was. It
Exactly.
was the default because it was already used to bring the community together. Everyone went to Casa Mayan.
Hmm.
And so they opened their doors and were like, well, then use this as your home base to make all of your neighborhood organizational efforts. So, yeah, it was the meeting place for the Auraria Residents Organization, which we talked about in episode 2. So go
Yeah.
back and listen to that, folks. And then ultimately, when those efforts failed, the I'm just going to call it ARO for simplicity's sake. The ARO then switched and was more about protecting whatever historical locations that they could. And
Yeah.
one of the big ones that they were desperate to save was the Casa Mayan,
Hmm.
the building. Like, it was iconic to the neighborhood, and it would have been absolutely devastating if it had gotten leveled. It
Yeah.
would be like cutting the heart out of the neighborhood, and you can't do that.
Mm-mm.
So thankfully, it was declared a historical landmark because of its history as Casa Mayan, because of its history as the Smedley House, and
Hmm.
it was preserved and it was saved from destruction. Now, the homeowners, you might say, why did I say you might say? They were the homeowners. The Gonzalez family.
Mhm.
How much do you think they were paid for their house, for eminent domain?
$12.
Basically, the businesses, so homes that were just a privately owned single family space
Mhm.
would receive $15,000 in compensation. And if it was a business, you would receive $27,000 in compensation. In theory, most of the people who lived in this neighborhood did not own their own homes, so they didn't receive a single fucking penny. They were
Mhm.
just evicted overnight by unscrupulous douchebag landlords who pocketed the money and then gave these families no time and no resources to go live anywhere else.
Mhm.
So the Gonzalez family did own their home. In fact, they owned their home and they owned a business that operated out of their home. So they should have received both the $15,000 and the $27,000. And they did not. Marta, who again she was one of the children of
Okay.
the original owners.
Mhm.
Marta Gonzalez, who also had taken over the business as an adult, they only got the business compensation.
Okay.
They didn't receive anything for the fact that their home was also no longer theirs.
Yeah.
It was preserved from being bulldozed, but they still could not stay there.
Mhm. I
It
mean,
was now a historic landmark and more of museum purposes rather than an actual dwelling space.
mhm. Kind of better than I thought they were gonna get, but still.
Yeah, not great though, considering that their restaurant had been operational and successful for about 27 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild.
Like, it was worth more than that, but the whole neighborhood was worth more than that. So there was a lot. All of that to say is now the home is used as a Chicano movement museum, and it is still a center for Chicano studies on campus. I mean, you can still go there. They have exhibits that have pictures of the family through all stages of life
Mhm.
and pictures of Casa Mayan when it was a restaurant and all of the famous people who came through and accounts and stories of it. And there was a lot of love in this house.
Mhm.
It was a beloved place, both as a business and as a home. The family adored living there. They loved the Auraria neighborhood. And so thankfully, it has really good energy and residual energy
Aw.
and residual ghosts.
It has
Um,
happy ghosts?
it's very happy.
Aw.
There's people will always describe, especially if you're in the building by yourself, sort of unexplained happenings and phenomena like seeing things out of the corner of your eye or hearing the stairs creak like someone is upstairs and
Mhm.
nobody is. But all of it is good.
Okay.
All of it is described as feeling good. And there have also been some orb sightings.
Ooh.
It's very exciting. So, the former student whose name I am now seeing because it popped up in my script, his name was Jason Cordova, and he started this paranormal investigation group that
I feel like
maybe
I've
you
heard of
know.
him.
Maybe. He founded for the Auraria campus the Crypto Science Society, and he set up some remote stations during their paranormal investigation. And one was set up in what is like an office space now, but it was a bedroom upstairs. and they did catch like orbs coming and going, like in
Hmm.
and out of the doorways and seeming to like float around. And
Hmm.
that would make sense given that the home was kind of always busy and full of life.
Exactly. Like, even when it wasn't open as a restaurant, there were 9 people living there.
Yes, there was always someone there. They were always doing something and giving back to the community in some way.
Exactly.
So that's Casa Mayan. There's orbs, and it sounds like people to this day are still running in and out of it.
I love it.
Yeah. And there's some really cool pictures
Yeah.
that are like in the house, because I've been in the house, and it just feels good.
Aw,
You just want to stay in it.
I love
So
that. We've had
yeah,
so
and
many,
there's
like, happy hauntings this season.
good. I like
Uh,
happy hauntings. And I'm thinking of the song from Haunted Mansion,
oh,
the theme
oh,
song that goes. Okay, have you ever been on Haunted Mansion,
yes,
the ride?
yes.
Okay,
But it was, like, a long time
okay,
ago. It was, like 8th grade.
that's like a really long time.
It was a really long time
We
ago.
should go again. We should go.
Okay, we'll add
We
it to
should
the list.
go again. It's very fun. Okay, water break. Stay hydrated, folks. So now we move to the Tivoli. And the Tivoli, for folks who are unfamiliar, is now a communal student union building. Its early days, it was a brewery. For a very long time, it was Tivoli Brewing. It is again now. It was also a mall for a little while in like the 80s and 90s before it got taken over by AHEC Auraria Higher Education Center because they needed an actual student union. And so then they purchased the building. So it's had many lives. And its current life is one of the tri-institutional communal buildings on campus. So this student union is where everyone from all 3 of the campuses can go and get. That's where the bookstore is. It's like where a food court is. The AHEC office is there for like maintenance problems. There's this one super cool kind of far off area that was where the movie theater
Huh.
used to be and operated for a really long time. And there's this one door where it definitely still looks like a movie theater. And there's the blank like poster frames, that would
Okay,
unlock, and then you put the poster in, and then it
yeah.
would lock again. Very weird looking, very disjointed, but
Mhm.
I really like it. So, Tivoli Student Union, the oldest part of the building, was created in 1870.
Okay.
And at that stage of its life, it was known as Siggy Brewing. I don't think that I realized this. It was the first brewery in Colorado.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is interesting.
older than Coors. Had it stayed open and not closed in the mid 60s,
Mhm.
it would have continued to be the oldest operating brewery in Colorado. But because it closed down, it does not have that title.
Yeah. That's neat, though. It,
Yeah,
started a whole legacy of breweries on every corner.
I know. And little did we know. And we haven't even covered any of the Coors history and
We
legacy in this
haven't.
state.
I've been thinking about that one.
We need to.
Yeah.
That family is wild.
Mhm.
I mean, they're super fucking rich people. What do you expect? Okay. So, Siggy Brewing, first brewery in Colorado. Then it was renamed. Siggy's were the original owners, and then it was purchased by different owners whose name I can't remember right now, so it doesn't matter. And was renamed into Tivoli Union Brewery. Do 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 do. So, despite being shut down since 1965, due to the massive flood that swept through the Auraria neighborhood and a workers' strike that happened in 1966, which prevented the building and the brewery from reopening, there was still enough history that it was also one of the spaces that was labeled a historic landmark and was not bulldozed in
Mhm.
1973 when they were building the campus. And so because of that, and because it was so old and it was such a part of the community, there's a couple different ghosts that are said to be inhabiting the area. The most common is believed to be the ghost of Molly Siggy, who was the daughter of the brewery's first owner, Moritz Siggy.
Okay.
He started Siggy Brewing
Mhm.
in 1870. He is the one who built the building itself. Molly died at the age 6 because
Oh.
of tuberculosis.
Mm.
This is, the ages of it all. And especially in the late 1800s, a lot of people came to Colorado because they'd already contracted tuberculosis or what they thought was tuberculosis.
Mhm.
And it was still going around like wildfire. At that point, we didn't know how it was spread.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, she did contract the illness and she did die. And a lot of people believe she's still here because when she was a little girl, she would play throughout the brewery and the grounds all the time. And its urban legend is that everyone who met her loved her. And after she died, some of the employees of the brewery, when it was still in operation, were said to have seen her in the main part of the brewery. So hauntings of her started like quite some time ago.
Yeah.
It does not appear to be something that was like
That
a modern day thing. Like people who knew her.
that would throw you for a loop, man.
I know. But that's pretty cool. Most of the time, she is seen in obviously the oldest parts of the buildings.
Mhm.
One of which it's called the catacombs. Now, it's all of these under tunnels. They're somewhat subterranean,
Okay.
and there's these huge pipes that water was pumped through for heating
Right.
and for all of the commercial purposes of a brewery.
Mhm.
Um, and she would play around down there and she would like follow her dad around. And that was also where the beer was stored and aged. I have heard mixed feelings about how people feel when they're in the catacombs. You either love it or you hate it.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
I loved going down there. It was my favorite. Yeah, definitely my favorite part of the building. Second favorite was the old movie theater area.
Mhm.
That isn't a movie theater, but now there's still all these big, like, sectioned off rooms
Yeah.
that are just liminal space. But I also worked with people who absolutely hated going into the catacombs and they refused to do it.
That's funny.
There are pictures. It is very much a labyrinth. Like
Hmm.
it's narrow hallways, it's these winding arches, all of the buildings look the same, or all of the rooms look the same.
Yeah.
There's old furniture, and because now it's just used for AHEC storage.
Right.
Um, and that is where people will see her. So one in particular was the former AHEC chief of campus programming. His name was Rob Byers. And he was interviewed by Cordova, who was doing the paranormal investigation of Casa Mayan. Um, and Rob said that he has heard and seen, like out of the corner of his eye, a little girl with like a ball, and she's running
Hmm.
after the ball and like playing with it and bouncing. And she's wearing a dress. She also he has reported hearing the sound of her laughing.
Okay.
So see her run around like just like a flash of like a little kid chasing after a ball,
Yeah.
and then the sound of her giggling and laughing when there's no kids around.
I could see that going either way, either being like terrible or like adorable.
Yeah, or adorable.
I
And I
wonder
guess she feels adorable.
I wonder if anybody's like taking a ball down there. Or like they have like the spirit boxes that like look like teddy bears or whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
horrifying.
I don't want it to look
Um
like a teddy bear.
it's like what are those toys called? Like the Teddy Rex or
Teddy Ruxpin?
Teddy Rexfin, where it's like a robot teddy bear
Yeah. The
thing.
stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, yeah. And now it
Like
talks, and now ghosts speak through them, and it's
demon fuel. Demon
it's
fuel.
the actual word.
Absolutely not. I don't know that anyone took a. It doesn't sound like anyone's ever taken a ball down there to play with her, but we should.
We should do it.
That should be us. We should
Okay.
be those people.
I want to play with the ghost girl.
Cordova and his team did do an investigation in the catacombs specifically. They describe at first going down, because you have to actually go like downstairs and ramps
Mm-hmm.
and these side walls. It's just, it doesn't make sense if you've never been in the building. But if you have been in a building, you understand you have to go down these stairs and then into this just random looking door. And now you're in the catacombs. So it's already an odd feeling
Mm-hmm.
because they're very remote and it's very quiet.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. It is all brick and low hanging lights and furniture. So it is very silent in there.
Mm.
So Cordova and his team already described an odd feeling walking in. They described feeling very cold. And
It is a basement.
yeah, it's a basement.
Just to play devil's advocate here.
That's the thing. I'm like, well, yeah, it's the old part of the building. They're not going to spend money to heat it any more
Right?
than they need to in order to like temperature control for storage. There are lots of rooms that have carpeted ramps and pink painted walls from previous iterations of the building's life. It's like every room you go into is decorated with remnants of all of the different things that the building has been.
Okay.
So like pink walls and carpet and old like bar tops from when it was still in operation as like a mall, and all this random college, shitty furniture that they put in the big communal like study areas, and these huge like arched somewhat chilly rooms that you're like, why the fuck is it so big? That's where they stored the beer to age.
Okay.
Like, so
Yeah,
that's
that makes
also
sense.
why it would have a lower temperature down there, because it was subterranean and it was meant to. So they described all of that, which gave off just the general sense of, for them, unease.
Mm-hmm.
And they also went in with as few lights on as possible.
Okay.
So that would definitely contribute. Like, it's pitch black down there.
Right. And I feel like any area you're going into where you're specifically like, this is super haunted, we're gonna do this ghost hunt, like it's already gonna have vibes just based on like what you're going there to do, you know?
Yeah. And so they were trying to get EVP and record asking questions, and they kept having difficulties with cameras and audio recording just going on and off without warning. And they would try and go into like the next room and speak to each other, and they were pretty close. They always said that the insulation was so thick, like it was so dense down there that the silence felt deafening, and it was hard to try and communicate with each other.
It's that sweet,
Um,
sweet asbestos.
yeah, yeah, it's so much asbestos and a lot of brick, and
Mhm.
they describe it as like suffocating.
Yeah.
When I would go down there, because all offices that are in AHEC have like gated storage areas down there that are
Okay.
for their specific use, so you can go in and out and like get extra shit. So I would always volunteer to go down there and grab stuff. It was far. That's why most people didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I always walked down there and immediately felt much more calm, because
Hmm.
to me, all of the weight and the heaviness and the silence felt like one of those anxiety blankets, like a weighted blanket.
I was just gonna say it's like a mental
It's a
weighted blanket.
it's a thunder coat. It's a thunder coat for my brain. So I absolutely adored that. However, I when I was reading that section where they were like, we were trying to do stuff and it didn't work and we just felt weird
Hmm.
when we were down there. Like we shouldn't have been there. I was like, I could see that. Um Maybe it's because you didn't say please or thank you to the building.
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. So they didn't have any personal experiences with Molly Siggy,
Hmm.
but there are lots of reports that people do, especially in the older parts of the building, that she would have been familiar with. Is this right? There is an urban legend that is unverified, that in the winter of 1955, when the brewery was unoccupied, um, well, a section of the brewery was unoccupied because as we talked about in our previous episodes, it went through a lot of hands,
Hmm.
and it had periods where it was more active as a brewery than others. Um, so according to an urban legend, in 1955, there was a group of unhoused men who were trying to get out of like a winter storm, like a snowstorm that was in Denver. And they snuck into the brewery, but because it wasn't business hours and they were in an area, the urban legend is that they were in the catacombs. And so because the catacombs were not heated, they ended up freezing to death.
Hmm.
Um, so a lot of students will use that urban legend as a reason why the catacombs are scary and feel oppressive. Could not verify an ounce of that story. Also, because it was
Interesting.
still a brewery
Hmm.
and bodies would have been found.
Yeah. It's interesting though that there was a story very similar to that at the Stanley of like a woman climbing into a basement and then still freezing to death. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes me wonder, like, did that actually happen on a regular basis?
I am sure that there were instances of people sneaking into the brewery and, breaking locks, either because they were needing shelter and they had nowhere else to go, or when it wasn't, particularly after it was abandoned
Oh
in
yeah.
the late 60s. I mean, there was from 1965 through 1973, it was an unoccupied building.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the late 70s, I don't think it was occupied until it was sort of revamped into a mall. So there were periods in its history where nothing was in there.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see that people would sneak in. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
teenagers are going to break the door in for ne'er-do-well activities.
Exactly. The mere whisper that there might still be alcohol present.
They're going to go in and look for it.
Yeah.
Like, and they're just like, teens are going to teen. So
Exactly.
I could definitely see how maybe during that phase of its life is probably when the urban legend that a group of unhoused men escaped a winter storm or tried to and then ended up getting lost in the catacombs and dying.
Mhm.
I could see that being a thing that teenagers would tell each other when they break into an empty former brewery.
Exactly.
Because there are all these meandering hallways and there are all of these doors that just lead to other rooms. Even in the rest of the building itself, there's lots of stairs. Like, there's just a bunch of shit. So the final building that is purported to have ghosts has both pleasant and unpleasant experiences. Not malicious, just uncomfortable.
Okay.
And it is the Turnhale. I always pronounce it Turnhale. Turnhale, Turnhall. I think it's Turnhale because it's Turnhalle.
Oh
All
yeah.
one word.
I could see that one being tricky.
See, I think it's the Turnhale. So that's what I'm calling it. It was an opera house. It was constructed next to and then very quickly became part of Tivoli Brewing, but it was constructed next to it in 1882. And it housed, there was a tasting room for the brewery that was there for a while. It also hosted concerts, plays, lectures, not opera house in the kind of entertainment that was there. Opera house in, it was a music hall, and they would always
Mhm.
name themselves opera house to try and make it sound classier
Yeah.
than music hall, because music hall was associated with like showgirls
Yeah.
and
It's got like saloon vibes.
yeah, and quote unquote classless behavior.
Mhm.
So you would call yourself an opera house to say, oh, no, no, we're not part of that nasty old riffraff. We're classy people. It is a really cool building. It's, when you walk in, it is oval shaped, and there is a stage at the front, and then the floor, the floor is like your normal base, but there's an oval balcony that
Okay.
is built on top, and a cathedral ceiling.
Mhm.
So when you go up to the balcony area, you can then look down, and it makes the whole lower floor have like this oval shape. It's cool. I'm not describing it very well, so people are like, "You dumb bitch, what the fuck?" Of course the floor is square. Um, Trust me guys, it looks cool. So there's a balcony, there's the stage, there's the main floor. It's a very popular spot for weddings.
Okay.
It's also used frequently for student events and campus events. There's lots of receptions there. There's lots of parties there, orientation, stuff like that. And even though it is a pretty high traffic area, there are still reports of hauntings.
Mm.
There was a caterer who was cleaning up after a wedding. This is again based on reports of interviews that Cordova held before a paranormal investigation that he did in the Turnhale. So the caterer was cleaning up, and they were positive that it was just them still in the building, because there
Mhm.
are doors that you can close and lock to keep it for like privacy and stuff like that. So they knew that they were the only one there, and then they looked up, and there was a woman in white standing on the balcony. So we've got ourselves a bona fide woman in white haunting on the Auraria
Beautiful.
campus. I love a woman in white.
It's a
I'm here for a
classic,
woman in
you
the white.
know?
They always say old-timey dress, but they're never sure exactly what era it's from.
I mean, if you go kind of the classic like floor length nightgown vibe, that could cover a lot of eras.
It's true. Basically all of them.
Yeah.
Even to this day, you could say, oh, she's wearing like almost a nightgown. And that's very boho vibes.
It's true. Yeah.
So the caterer saw her and thought it was someone from the wedding party
Hmm.
who just got left behind. But then when they went up to the second story balcony, she was gone.
Hmm.
I couldn't find names. There's another urban legend that one of the performers, when the opera house was still functioning, died because of a prop accident.
Mm.
Um, it was, they were accidentally stabbed,
No.
but I couldn't find any records of like an actual name
Mhm.
or details of it outside of just the myth or the retelling from Rob Byers, the
Uh-huh.
former like manager.
Well, and it's like it's possible that something like that did happen, but maybe nobody died and then it just
Yeah.
grew, you know?
Maybe like for sure they got stabbed.
Yeah.
And like it's hard to trust that props and stunts are going to be safe and effective now.
Right,
So,
exactly. Like
you
accidents
know,
like that still happen.
yeah,
So,
like 1890s, early 1900s, that would definitely happen. So
yeah.
it's not surprising. Byers said that he saw the ghost of said performer and the woman in white out of the corner of his eye when he was in the building alone.
Mhm.
But then some other student workers have said that their experiences being in the turnhail, especially when they're by themselves, have been less than great.
Uh-oh.
Student workers described being pushed.
Hmm.
Like, so one student employee was working like a night shift for like event stuff. Because again, there's events in the turnhill all the time. And he said that as he was walking on the balcony, he felt a hand on his shoulder and it felt like he was getting pushed, like
Hmm.
shoved away. Didn't like that very much.
No.
Um,
Especially on a balcony. I don't love that.
yeah, that's not that, not that great. And it's not, the balcony is wide enough that like you can put small tables up there. Like
Yeah.
there's not seating, but you go up there to kind of stand and like you can look down on everybody else.
Okay.
And I had another one on my list, but I'm actually gonna save it because it is another murder and it needs to be its own. It needs to be
Okay.
its own thing.
Okay.
It deserves its own thing.
That's fair.
So those are some of the reported hauntings at the Auraria campus. Somehow, believe it or not, there is more.
I was gonna say, are you sure there wasn't, just a misty apparition on the stage?
There will be. There will be a misty apparition on the stage. It's gonna be me. Um,
That's actually our first live show. Is just on the Auraria campus, and it's just us doing a ghost cabaret.
misty apparition. I would. It would feel like a true capstone of my legacy to do a live show in the turnhail. I
That
would
would
love
be
it.
actually that would
We should do
legitimately
that.
be amazing.
Like,
But
it would be incredible. It is a
yeah,
beautiful place.
we need to start like guerrilla marketing these places and just like leave our stickers with like little QR codes to our episodes around
Just
those
slap
locations
them.
so we start getting fans.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Um, if you are a fan and you are on campus, start a whisper campaign.
Yeah.
You know, uh, let's do it.
Help us out. Yeah. Let's
That'd
do
be really
this.
cool. I know that the restaurant that's right next to the turnhill has closed as of like
Hmm.
a couple of years ago. I hope something else reopens there because it's a prime location. But I haven't been there in a while. So,
Yeah.
mm.
Goodness.
And that's some haunted area, mostly residual.
Mm-hmm.
mostly neutral and or pleasant. In the case of Casa Mayan and Molly Siggy, I feel like Catacombs, you're going to get the energy you put into it.
Yeah.
So be cool.
I mean, that's true of anywhere, right?
That's true.
Just
Yeah.
be cool.
Just be
Just be
cool. And I
cool.
always really like the Turnhill. But I also understand that you and I are people who enjoy the idea of something being haunted. So
Mhm.
we are more comfortable in a building that would have that kind of energy.
Yeah.
And not everyone is that vibe.
It's true. It's true. Not everyone is down for that.
No.
Eh, to each their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to that I say, fine.
Fine. You don't have to come ghost hunting with us.
Then don't come ghost hunting with us. Seriously, would 100% love to do ghost hunting on this campus. That
Oh,
would be so
absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely. We need to start actually scheduling some of these things. We have actual aids to go ghost hunting and we just have not done it.
Because it's at night. And that is hard. And you have a family that you cannot
No,
just abandon for your creative pursuits.
but I do anyway.
I'm pretty sure behind me there was just the ghost of a tiny little white dog.
There sure was.
I saw her little tail go beep 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 beep. So, Andy, how can people engage more with us if they want to?
Well, you can follow us on social media. We are on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube at this point at Two Girls Who Scare Easily with the number 2. Or if you want to go ghost hunting with us, or if you've got an inn on the Auraria campus and you just want to hang out or whatever, you can email us directly at twogirlswhoscareeasily@gmail.com, also with the number 2. Yeah, otherwise, I guess we've got, a couple more episodes of this season left. So come back next time for more. And until then, stay smart,
Stay safe.
and stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.